Good day, and welcome to another edition of Q&A Social Security Disability Today. I am your host, Anthony Reeves, and as always, it's a pleasure to have you with me on this beautiful day. For those, as always, I encourage you to keep the questions coming in. You know you can always leave them right here on YouTube, and I'll make a point to address them every week. If you also, I encourage you to go to my blog, which is legalbeat.anthonyreeves.com, because I tend to cover topics on that blog that are different from what I cover on my question and answer day of Q&A Social Security Disability Today. You can also feel free to visit me at my website at www.reevesfirm.com. On both sites, you'll probably notice that I have what an indication of what we call a free claim evaluation. I encourage those persons, if you're applying for disability benefits or if you're thinking about applying for disability benefits, feel free to fill out that information and someone from my office will give you a buzz. Also, kind of putting it out there, food for thought. If you have a representative already, I always tell people, you already have a rep, you might as well ask them questions because they're going to tell you the same thing I'm going to tell you. Just kind of keeping that out there, food for thought. As always, you can always email me at anthony@reevesfirm.com. And of course, you can follow me in a variety of different ways. At Twitter, it's Legal Gold, LEGALGOLD. At Facebook, it's Reeves Law Firm. So, and of course, as always, the combination of a lot of my social media sites is at www.anthonyreeves.com. You can find me all over the place. Just go out and reach out, and I'll be more than happy to address you. All right, got two questions today. One is, how do I convince Social Security to extend my deadline for missing an appeal? All right, Social Security typically operates under this premise. They have a 5-day mailing rule, and for most, 60 days tends to be their standard rule of thumb. Meaning, when you get a decision from them, they typically afford you 60 days to appeal it. And they also allow for an additional 5 days because for the mailing rule, meaning they figure it's going to take you 5 days to get whatever document they send to you, plus the 60 days you're going to need to appeal. Now, there are going to be times, for whatever reason, that you didn't file that appeal in a timely fashion. And it could be for a litany of different things. On this particular post here, as well, I'm going to put on my Legal Beat website, but you can also read it here. You'll find a list of different things that Social Security will take in consideration as what we call examples of good cause for reasons for not appealing your case in a timely manner. In other words, if you're going to appeal it, you need to tell them why they should and why they should extend the time period. And it's got to be for a good cause reason. Now, the list that I provided you is quite long, and it can come to a lot of different things. It can include maybe at the time when the appeal happened, you had a serious death in the family. Maybe you are experiencing some cognitive problems like memory issues, or you have a significant lack of understanding that you didn't realize you were supposed to do. Let's say all the paperwork that you received was in your house and your house burned down. And so you didn't even know what the date was, or you got the mail, put it on the table, but then the house burned down, and then you didn't know you even had a decision until you called back a few months later and they said we sent it to you. And so you're like, well, my house burned down with a decision in the house. So you want to be able to demonstrate to Social Security that there is a good reason as to why they should give you more time. Couple of things you need to be aware of. Just your word alone is not enough. You can't bust out and say, well, I just think I should get it just because I say so. Wrong answer. A lot of times, Social Security wants a detailed explanation or documentation to demonstrate why you should be given more time. Here's the other thing that you need to be aware of. Just because you ask for more time doesn't mean they're going to give you more time. So even if you believe you have a good cause reason for why you haven't turned your documents on time, does not in and of itself mean that you are going to get that good cause extension. So keep those things in the back of your mind. Again, I got a couple of things that I'm putting here on the website that you can take a look at underneath this video. You can kind of read through it at your leisure. And if you have any other questions about some of this information, by all means, let me know. Now, here's another thing that you need to be aware of. Sometimes good reasons can still get denied. Here's what I mean by that. Meaning, I've seen instances where I've said that this particular situation falls within the criteria for the examples of what can be considered good cause, and Social Security has still said, sorry, refile. It happens. So I don't want any of you out there to think that just because you think you have a great reason and you tell Social Security you have a great reason, that you're going to automatically get an extension of time. So I put that out there to say this. Let's say you applied for SSI and you applied for it last year and they denied you, you didn't get it, or whatever weird thing happened because you didn't get a chance to, you didn't file the appeal on time. I always tell people file a new appeal and then fight to get that old appeal open, reopen. Why are you doing that? Because if you're spending all your time trying to get them to let you keep that old one open by extending your deadline to file an appeal, guess what happens? You're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting, and then if they tell you no, that the time that you could have spent filing a new claim has passed and you've lost it. So it's better just to keep both things going at the same time. So keep those things in the back of your mind. Also, if you talk to Social Security, tell them this is what happened. What do you need from me in order to demonstrate that this is the case? And again, they will make a determination. Now, some people will ask, well, what if I think the reason why they say we're going to let the decision stand is a garbage reason? You can appeal it. You can still fight it. But at the end of the day, keep in mind, they can still say, we don't think you have a good reason. It is not a guarantee. So a lot of times I get people who will give me a whole bunch of different reasons why they think these are good cause reasons for them to have more time. And I always have to tell them, just because you say so doesn't make it so. All you can do is put the appeal in and give them the reason, contact Social Security, find out what they need to support what you're saying, and then sit back and wait and see what happens. All right, let's go to the second question. After getting my payee set up, I would just like the checks to come in my name. What do I have to do to change them? What do I have to do to change the mind of SSI to show them that I can take care of the money? How and what do I need in order to be able to be my own payee? All right, I've talked about this in previous blogs, and I think I may have done it here before, but let me kind of explain the concept of representative payee. A representative payee is typically designated by the Social Security Administration in situations where they have a concern that the claimant does not have the ability to control their own funds. Now, if it's a child, it's automatic because kids can't have, the idea is that kids can't enter into contracts, so therefore, if you're under the age of 18, don't even ask the question, you're going to have a rep payee, period. If you're an adult, 18 or over, it becomes a little bit more interesting. So your question really is, Social Security determined that I need somebody to handle my money. I believe that I can. What can I do to change their mind? First of all, I tell people contact Social Security and ask them specifically what do they need, because every condition is a little different. If you have a situation where it's an IQ issue and it deals more with math, they may be a little bit more leery, so they may need something from somebody, and I don't know who you would even go to in that instance. But if you're talking about a cognitive situation, let's say you had a traumatic brain injury, you were in an auto accident, so your memory is really bad. They're worried that maybe you might forget to pay your bills. So if you've got a neurologist or a treating doctor that will write out a report that kind of, or a letter indicating that you have the ability to control your own funds, that's going to help. They're not going to, and let me just be very blunt when I say this, they're not going to rely on your word alone. Or let me take it even third degree. Because one, I said child. Two, I said IQ. Three, I even talked about traumatic brain disorder. Let's talk about drugs and alcohol. If in your file there is a history of substantial drugs and alcohol use, they're not going to want to give you money with the risk that you're going to go out and spend it on drugs and alcohol. So let's kind of walk it backwards. If you're 18, under 18, you got to wait till you turn 18. If it's based on a learning capability and so forth, you might want to go to a therapist or counselor, whoever is working with you, to write something for you demonstrating, or a job coach demonstrating that you can handle your funds. If it's a memory issue, you might want to go to a neurologist, someone who's treating your memory issues or your cognitive or your brain injury issues to demonstrate you can handle your own affairs. And then finally, if it's one that deals with drugs and alcohol, if you've got a treating doctor who's willing to say, or who's saying that I've seen you for about a year, you've abstained from drugs, we've done tox screenings, you haven't popped positive or had a relapse at all. Those are things that they need to have, because the reality is, and this is the one thing I tell people all the time, get it out your mind. This is not your money. You paid into the system, but you're paying into a federal program by which the government has a financial responsibility to make sure those federal funds are being used for your benefit. So if they are worried that your money may not be used properly, or used on something that is not in for your benefit, they would rather err to the conservative side of giving it to somebody else who can manage your money effectively, safely, and efficiently, as opposed to giving it to you and you possibly blowing it. A lot of times people think rep payees, they get mad because they're like, they try to give my money to somebody else. It ain't about giving your money to anybody else. It's about making sure that your money is used properly for you. Period. That's really what it is at the end of the day. Because I got news for you. If it's a choice between making sure somebody has your money to pay your bills, or risking the possibility that you're going to take that money and not pay your bills, or worse, using it on smack crack or getting somebody that drove, anything like that, they are going to go to the conservative side. So then, if that's the case, you have to prove it. So the best way I would tell you to do is to call Social Security and just tell them I know I have a representative payee. I believe I can handle my own funds. What do you need from me in order for me to demonstrate that I can? They will tell you. Do what they tell you. Now listen carefully when I say this last part. Don't do what you think they meant for you to do, or your interpretation of what you thought they wanted you to do. Ask them specifically. So when they tell you we need a letter from your doctor saying that you no longer use drugs or alcohol, that doesn't mean a letter from your nurse or your nurse practitioner or from the receptionist or from the office where the lady sitting up front or the guy sitting up front just signs a piece of paper on your behalf. It's not what they asked for. And so when they still tell you no, don't get an attitude because you were doing what you thought they wanted you to do as opposed to what they asked you to do. So you make sure you get a complete understanding of exactly what they want and do exactly what they want. And if it works out to your benefit and you do those things, you shouldn't have a problem. All right, everybody. Again, I want to welcome you again to another episode of Q&A, Social Security Disability Today. Keep those questions coming. And as always, if you have any more, I'm here for you. My name's Anthony Reeves, and you have a wonderful day.